He was just a professor's assistant. But he stole my heart in the library. I had always loved the library. It was my sanctuary from the chaos of campus life, a quiet, sacred space where I could lose myself in novels, essays, and poetry. The faint smell of old books, polished wood, and the occasional aroma of coffee from the cafe downstairs made it feel almost magical. I was in my third year of university, pursuing literature, and balancing studies with my part-time job as a campus magazine writer. Life was busy, sometimes exhausting, but predictable. That predictability changed the day he appeared. He wasn't a student. Not exactly. He was a professor's assistant, tall, lean, with sharp features that looked like they'd been carved from marble. His dark hair always seemed perfectly in place, and his hazel eyes had a warmth that was almost dangerous. I first noticed him while searching for a rare copy of a poetry book for my latest article. He was arranging books on the top shelf, his fingers brushing the spines like he knew their secrets. "Need some help?" he asked, his voice low and smooth. My heart skipped. I must have looked like an idiot, staring at him. "Yes, if you don't mind," I replied, trying to sound casual. As he retrieved the book for me, our fingers brushed. It was brief, innocent, or so I told myself, but sparks shot through me. I quickly thanked him, trying to focus on the book in my hands. But I couldn't stop looking at him as he walked away, carrying a stack of textbooks with effortless grace. Over the next few weeks, I found excuses to visit the library more often. Every time I came in, he seemed to be there, organizing, assisting professors, or quietly reading at one of the study tables. It became impossible to ignore the magnetic pull I felt toward him. One rainy afternoon, I was huddled in a corner, taking notes for a particularly difficult literature essay. The rain tapped softly against the window, and the library was unusually empty. Suddenly, he appeared beside me, holding a cup of coffee. "You look like you could use this," he said, offering it with a shy smile. I hesitated, then took it. "Thank you, that's very kind." He pulled up a chair without asking, settling beside me. "I noticed you struggling with your essay. Do you want some help?" I nodded, and as we went through lines of poetry together, I realized how much I enjoyed his presence. There was a quiet intensity about him, a mixture of intellect and something unspoken, magnetic. Every time he looked at me, I felt like he could see into my soul. Days turned into weeks, and our library sessions became more frequent. I discovered little things about him, how he loved classical music, how he always preferred old books over digital copies, how he had a dry sense of humor that made me laugh unexpectedly. One evening, as the library was closing, he asked me to walk him to the exit. The campus was nearly deserted, and the air smelled of wet grass and rain. "I enjoy our conversations," he said quietly, glancing at me. "You're different from other students. You actually think." I smiled, feeling my cheeks flush. "I could say the same about you." There was a pause, a charged silence. The world seemed to shrink around us, leaving just the two of us. Then, impulsively, I reached out and brushed a wet strand of hair from his face. His eyes darkened slightly, and I felt the electricity between us intensify. A few days later, we were studying together in the library's old reading room, the golden afternoon light streaming through the tall windows. I was explaining a line from a Shakespeare sonnet when he leaned closer. "Let me show you something," he whispered. Before I could respond, his lips were on mine, soft, warm, and insistent. My heart raced, and for a moment, I forgot to breathe. It was the kind of kiss that felt like it had been building for months, full of tension, curiosity, and desire. When we finally pulled away, we were both flushed and slightly breathless. "We shouldn't," I began, but he shook his head. "Why not?" "There's nothing wrong with this," he said, his hand brushing mine. And I realized he was right. It felt natural, inevitable, like a story that had been waiting to be written. Part 5, The Secret Affair. From that day forward, our encounters became bolder, though we kept them private. Study sessions in the library turned into quiet walks across the campus at night, lingering touches, whispered conversations, and secret smiles that said more than words ever could. One evening, he invited me to his apartment under the guise of discussing a literature project. Once inside, the atmosphere was electric. Candlelight reflected off the walls, casting a warm glow. He poured 2 glasses of wine and handed me one, his fingers brushing mine in a way that made my pulse quicken. We talked, laughed, and shared stories about our lives, his childhood, my family, dreams, and fears. And then, without warning, he leaned in and kissed me again. This time, it was deeper, more urgent, but still tender. I melted into him, forgetting the world outside, letting myself feel every sensation. It was intoxicating, thrilling, and terrifying all at once. I knew the consequences of getting involved with him. He was a staff member, I was a student, but I couldn't resist. Desire, after all, is a powerful force. Our affair continued in secrecy. We met in quiet corners, after hours in the library, in secluded spots on campus. Every encounter was thrilling, like living on the edge. Yet, there was always a tension beneath the surface, the knowledge that being caught could ruin everything. One afternoon, I found myself thinking about him in the middle of a lecture, distracted and flushed. My mind wandered to the night before, when he had held me close, whispering my name. He noticed my distraction later, during our study session. "You're thinking about me," he said, a teasing glint in his eye. "Maybe I am," I admitted, feeling a thrill at his words. He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Good. I like it when you think about me." It was dangerous, intoxicating, and irresistible. Every moment we shared felt like stolen time from a world that didn't allow us to be together openly. Weeks passed, and our connection deepened. What had started as attraction had grown into something much more: care, affection, intimacy. I realized I was falling for him, and I feared what would happen if I admitted it. One evening, sitting on a bench under the autumn-colored trees, I gathered my courage. I think I'm falling for you," I said softly, my fingers intertwined with his. He looked at me, his hazel eyes warm and vulnerable. "I was hoping you'd say that," he admitted. "I feel the same. More than I should, maybe, but I can't help it." We embraced, holding each other as if the world outside no longer mattered. The tension, the secrecy, the thrill, all of it culminated in that moment. We were 2 hearts, reckless and in love, finding solace in each other's arms. Our secret love continued, but we knew we couldn't hide forever. One afternoon, the university announced a literature seminar where all staff and students would be present. My heart pounded at the thought of being in the same room with him under scrutiny. But when we entered the hall together, hands brushing under the table, I realized something important: the connection we had was real. It wasn't about rules, appearances, or fears, it was about the bond we shared. After the seminar, he took my hand and led me to a quiet courtyard. "No matter what happens, I want us to be honest. About everything. You and me." "I want that too," I whispered. From that day, we navigated our relationship with care, finding ways to nurture our love while respecting boundaries. It wasn't easy, but love never is. And through every stolen glance, whispered word, and lingering touch, I knew I had found something extraordinary. Part 9, The Future. By the end of the semester, I had grown, not just as a student, but as a person. I had experienced desire, passion, and the complexities of love. And I had done so with someone who made me feel alive in ways I hadn't imagined. We graduated from clandestine encounters to openly supporting each other, sharing dreams and plans. Our story wasn't perfect, but it was ours, bold, passionate, and unforgettable. And as I walked through the campus one sunny afternoon, hand in hand with him, I realized that love, even when it starts in secret, has the power to change everything.